What you got to say about it? Hello everybody, Cam S here. Welcome back to episode 4 of Chasing Tales. It is raining again, of course, so we're still going to head out in the woods, and there might be some bad news because it sounds like the neighbor shot a buck a few days ago, and the description matches the one of the very big ones that I was after, but he never ended up finding it. So hopefully it's still alive out here, and I'll have to check the trail camera to see if there's any other big bucks or if it's still alive. I'll see you out on the tree stand.
Right after I got in the tree stand, this button buck came out by itself, and then shortly after I had two does enter the main trail that seemed to catch my wind and got spooked off.
Looks like the rain has finally stopped for a little bit. It's gonna start back up again in like 45 minutes. So, right at prime time. But I've got some good news. I checked the trail camera, and the big buck that I thought the neighbor shot, possibly, was on camera last night at 6 o'clock. So that's a big relief. And there's a new buck on camera as well. The one side is very nice, and the other side is kind of weird. Like, I can't tell if it goes straight off or if it goes down. It's a cool looking buck and it looks really old, so that might be a cool buck to take as well. So I haven't gotten too good of a look at it because I've just checked it on this camera, but when I go home from here I can check it on the computer and blow it up a little bit, but not my top target. But if it comes in, it gives me a good look at it. I think it'd be a pretty cool buck to take because, like I said, the one side is normal, like a typical buck, and it's huge and tall. And then it's one side, like, goes straight out and kind of down, so it's kind of a weird looking buck, almost got like one giant drop tine on it, but just kind of a cool looking deer.
Shortly after I got done saying this, I noticed a decent buck up the trail working on a scrape, but he made his way into the woods. Shortly after, he came back into the trail and started to work on a different scrape, and then made his way down towards my tree stand. I was going back and forth quite a bit, trying to decide whether or not this was a shooter, but at this point, I decided that it was. Then all of a sudden I noticed right in front of me a group of does making their way right under my tree stand. This also seemed to get the buck's attention because he started to head my way. But then he got spooked off. Then when I was packing up, I noticed a few more deer making their way towards my tree stand.
Well, that was a very good night out in the woods, especially when you compare it to last weekend's hunt, like as a whole. So, I almost shot that buck. I was going back and forth with whether or not I was going to shoot it. And then it looked at me and I could tell it was wider because I was thinking it was the same buck that I passed up earlier this season. But I do not think it was. Unless I just have buck fever from not seeing a decent buck in like 2 or 3 weeks that I just got so excited by seeing the first thing with antlers and thinking it was ginormous. But I know it wasn't the big buck that I have on camera, but it still looked like a pretty decent buck. It looked like it was going to work out perfectly. Those 5 does that came in walked right underneath me. He noticed those does, left the scrape that he's working on, started walking straight towards me, and then the other doe or button buck that he was like with from the beginning, I think smelled me, which I don't know how they didn't smell me earlier because that buck was straight downwind of me the whole night. So I don't know how he didn't notice me earlier. He kind of looked at me, but something took off. I don't know. They smelled me, saw me, what? And it kind of caused a chain reaction. The buck took off. I don't even know what happened. I was watching those does walk right underneath me, making sure they weren't going to see me. So I don't really know what happened. But then all of a sudden, that smaller deer that he was with came running back through and started running in circles. So I don't know if it's just a young deer playing around and it just startled the buck or if they actually smelled me, but it was a pretty good night. I guess it kind of made the decision for me whether or not I was going to shoot it since I was going back and forth with it. It didn't stop. I was hoping it was going to stop right in that main trail and it didn't, and then worked on a scrape and then it almost worked out perfectly to come right underneath me, but still got a long weekend. Like I said earlier, the big buck is still alive as of last night. He was on camera, so hopefully we can have a good weekend hunting. That was a very good start to a weekend of hunting, especially after last weekend. And I don't know if I got on camera or not, but right as I sat down to start packing up, I had that doe come right underneath me, just a random doe that I'm pretty sure you could see it on camera. Then all of a sudden I heard some grunting off in the brush in front of me and out walked a buck. But at that point, like I said, I was already packing up because it was too dark and I couldn't really get a good look at its rack. So very good night hunting, and I will see you in the morning. Hello everyone, it is the next morning. We're back out to the woods. I've had a little bit of trouble trying to figure out which stand I'm going to sit in because the wind is not the best for the one that I sat in last night, but it is also the closest one to those scrapes, so I really want to sit in that one. But it's perfect wind for my other tree stand, but I can't really see as much at that one unless they're right underneath me, so kind of going back and forth with it right now. I still don't know what I'm going to pick. I thought I had my mind made up, but I'm not really sure now because I really want to be able to see those scrapes to see if I can see that nice buck or not. But on the way here, I had a very big buck run out in the road in front of me chasing some does. So hopefully the deer are moving this morning.
Okay, I decided to sit in the tree stand that the wind was going to be best for, so this is the one that I can only see them if a shot on him, so hopefully it wasn't a mistake sitting here. And hopefully we still see a decent amount of deer.
Very early in the morning, I had some movement right underneath my tree stand, and then a very nice buck made its way into my shooting trail. But after staring at each other for quite a bit longer, I got impatient and tried to draw back slowly. And to make matters worse, I dropped my arrow out of the tree stand.
That was definitely a shooter. Everything worked out perfect. I saw it right below me and walked around, right out in the trail where I had my camera ready to go. I went to put my release on the string, and it pushed the knock off the string. So I had to struggle to try to put the arrow back on with one hand. And then that's why I grunted so early. And at that point he was already looking at me. So I tried to rush it and tried to pull back slowly with him looking at me. Dang it. Because I figured as soon as he would start walking again, it would be too late for me to grunt again to get him to stop because he would already be off the trail. So I'm sure he's long gone by now too, because when I let down my bow, my arrow dropped from the knock again and fell down to the ground. So. I'm so frustrated right now with all of my practicing. I think that has only happened one time, like my very first time using this release. So I've figured out how to do it without making it fall out. I should have just been more patient. And if he walked off, he walked off. But now, with me scaring him off, he's not gonna come back.
It's very frustrating. I ended up seeing, I think, 3 more does, but I couldn't get them on camera because one came in really quick, acting like it was being pushed, but nothing else followed it, and then 2 of them were off in the thick stuff, and I couldn't get those on camera either. But very frustrating. I guess one good thing that comes out of this is that I know that there's another big buck out here. And I guess I just need to pay more attention and take my time more. And I'm not sure how big he was, but I know he was bigger than the one from last night that I almost shot. And he looked very big. I'll have to go blow it up on camera when I get home. But I think he was not as big as the big buck that I shot last year, but he looked very promising and close to that one. So, but there's still time left in the season, and I will be out here again tonight.
Hello, we're out here tonight. My dad is back in his blind that he shot the 7-point from earlier this year. And I'm up in the tree stand that I was in last night by the camera and by all the scrapes. And I went over the footage from this morning. And that buck was even bigger than I thought it was.
Early into the hunt, I noticed a little buck in front of me that I could not capture on camera.
I just heard a shot and then a big thud over in the area where my dad was sitting. So I texted him, and he ended up shooting a nice 8-point. He said he thinks it was a good hit. And I heard a grunt behind me. I just saw 2 deer over in the thick stuff over there, so I haven't seen anything besides that small buck earlier. So hopefully things are picking up. It's about time for sunset, so fingers crossed we can get a double tonight.
A little while after this, I noticed 2 bucks make their way out into the trail, and the bigger of the 2 made his way towards me. But after what I saw this morning, I decided to use 2 small.
I had a smaller buck make its way across the trail, and I knew it was a smaller buck. Then that buck that came into me came out, and it was like a lot bigger of a body, and I saw antlers. I didn't really know how big the antlers were, or how big the buck was, or how old it was. I just knew it was quite a bit bigger than that first buck. So I used the bleed can and bleeded a few times. And he just kind of stood there for a bit, but then he ended up coming in. And I drew back on him, as you guys can see. But it was not as big as I thought it was. And not as old of a deer as I thought it was, so decided to let that one go. Especially after the one that I saw this morning and some of the other ones I have on camera, so I'm not upset with letting that one go. And it's getting pretty dark now. You can't really tell on camera, but it's getting pretty dark, so probably gonna get down here pretty quick and hopefully go find ourselves Dad's buck. I will, if nothing happens between here and then, next time I'll see you is at his blind and we will get the story from him of what happened.
Alright, so we're in the blind with my dad where he shot the buck tonight. Let's hear the story.
Well, we're in the same blind that I shot my buck earlier this year, or a couple weeks ago, and my guide Cameron called it perfect. There's a scrape about 85 yards down the trail, and he said I would see a buck tonight on that scrape, and sure enough, one came out on that scrape and worked it for about 5 minutes and slowly made its way towards me, and it was finally got about 45 yards away, and it turned to go out into the field. So I took a shot, and I'm trying out some new lighted knocks today, and pretty sure that it was a lot better shot than what I had the last time, and it might have been a little bit far back, but it was a decent shot. So
Bigger than last time then?
yeah, it's a nice at least 8 point.
Sweet.
So I've waited patiently for you to get here, so let's go see if we can find something.
Alright. Here's your knock right there. Oh, it's definitely Buddy.
She went through.
Awesome. What'd you say?
Palm of deer.
Oh. Is there even any blood?
Some blood right here. Here he is.
Oh, yeah. Dandy.
Not a bad shot.
Very nice one. Alright. What you got to say about it?
I'm very happy with it. I'm happy with the new lighted knocks and the muzzy mechanical broadheads I put on it. From where I shot it, only went about 20 feet, so it definitely didn't go far.
Very nice buck. Might have been the one that I had an issue on this morning. Just glad one of us got it rather than getting hit by a car or neighbor nearby.
Right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hello everybody, it is the next morning following my dad's awesome buck that he harvested, and we are coming back out to the woods again. We are going to head up to the tree stand that I was in last night, closer to all those scrapes, and as you can hear right there, it is raining yet again. But the wind's supposed to be all over the place this morning, so just decided to pick a tree stand and hope for the best at this point, since it's gonna completely switch from one direction all the way to a different one. So hopefully we can see some decent deer this morning, and I will see you up in the tree stand. Very early in the morning, I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and I noticed a little buck was bedded down right behind me.
Not sure what he saw that I couldn't, but he stood up and looked over that way, grunted twice, and then ran straight towards it. So I tried using the bleed can a couple times to see if I could get whatever he was excited about to come in, just in case it was another big buck that he was excited for. So nothing came in. He worked on a scrape and kept going towards it. So not sure what he saw.
Either I left too early or I sat in the wrong tree stand, because I kicked up quite a bit of deer walking out. So I don't know if I was in the wrong tree stand or, like I said, leaving too early, which this is the time I normally leave, because this is when the cutoff is on my trail camera when the bucks stop moving. So not sure. It was a very, very slow morning, so that kind of stinks, but do not think I'll be able to go out tonight, but I should be able to go in the morning. So I will see you then. It is the next morning, and we are back out to the woods. I honestly could not decide where I was going to sit this morning between here and that field, so I figured out all the best wind directions for all my tree stands before I even checked the weather, and told myself that if the wind is facing this direction, that means a certain tree stand. So check the weather and figured out what tree stand I'm going to be sitting in, and I think I'm going to be sitting in the double tree stand that I hunted in with Alyssa, and then I hunted in it my last episode as well. Then I ordered some new cell cameras so I can try to pattern these deer a little better, since I only have one camera out here. So I've got 2 more cameras I'm going to put out today after my hunt to try to get a better idea of when these deer are moving, where they're going through, so that hopefully I can have a better idea of where to sit and when to sit for next weekend.
After an extremely slow start to the morning, I finally saw my first deer, and it was a small buck. More time passed, and I ended up seeing another buck work its way across the other part of the woods. Then I had a lot more time pass before I saw anything else, and I turned around, and right behind me was another small buck. But he must have picked up my wind because he was very on edge.
I think I'm gonna call it a morning for the tree stand and head out and put up some cameras. I know the general area where I want to put one at, but I'm kind of going back and forth for another, if I should put it on a scrape or put it on the trail next to my tree stand to see what time they're going through. So I'm not sure if I want to go the route of seeing what all's out here by putting it on a scrape, or if I want to see what time they're going through and what is going through by my tree stand. So I guess I can put the first one up first and then go from there.
Okay, so we got the first camera set up. There is a scrape down there, scrape right here, and scrape right here. And then we got the stealth cam set up right there. Now I just set up my last camera of the day, and there's a giant scrape on the ground right here, and then another one farther back in the trail back here. So there's one really big here, and a small one here, and a rub back here, and then another scrape right here as well. So should be a decent spot for it. Well, everyone, I think this is going to wrap up this weekend's hunt. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and hopefully putting all these cameras out here will give me a better idea of where the deer are at, what deer are out here, and what time they're moving. That way I can have a better understanding where I should sit. Hopefully be able to bring down at least one buck by the end of bow season. Today, 1 year ago today, I tagged out on my very big buck, so I'm a little bit behind schedule to where I was at last year. So hopefully we can get everything figured out. Congratulations again to my dad for being able to harvest that awesome buck. We think it is possibly his biggest buck to date. So it was a very nice buck, and I'm glad that we could find it, and glad that we got the crossbow 3 for 3 now. So hope you all enjoyed this video. Make sure you check out camsoutdoors.com and post any of the bucks that you have gotten this season on there as well. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.